When we think about DNS, we have a port quick reference for some of these services and protocols that we go through here. You could see that DNS runs on port 53 for both TCP and for UDP, connection-oriented, connection-less. We do use both protocols for it, and we want to make sure we know that if we ever see port 53, we equate that with the DNS service. There also are some what are called RFCs listed here. RFCs, request for comment, is going to give you the document reference, which is the number that comes after the RFC. You could see RFC 1035 is an update to the original RFC of number 882 that sets up DNS. This is like the owner's manual for DNS. The RFCs are the original documents that were drafted and created and filed formally to set up the standard and the operating instructions of the methodology, in this case of how DNS works. And over time, as you can see, there may be updates to them. They're numerically, sequentially numbered, so that way we can keep track of them over time. And if you want to look up how DNS actually works, top to bottom, and read the exact technical specifications based on the original people that wrote them, you go and Google for RFC 882, and you'll find the original DNS RFC. And there's a reference to the fact that that RFC was written in 1972, whenever it was written. I don't know when it was written, I'm just guessing, but whatever date it was written a long time ago. And then there have been updates since. So if you Google RFC 1034 or 1035, it'll tell you at the very top, hey, this is for DNS or some aspect of it. And by the way, this updates RFC original, RFC 882, written on such and such day and such time. So that's how we can use this lookup system to be able to find the original owner's manuals and the original reference material for any of these services and protocols and systems that we may reference. So from time to time in the presentation, you'll see me throw one of these up on the screen for something, and at least you'll know what it's for. You have the port reference with the protocol that's used, and you may have the RFC references as well. When we think about LDAP, Lightweight Directory Access Protocol, just piling more protocols on top of what we're already talking about, we can see that LDAP is going to be a protocol that's used commonly for managing user information. LDAP is going to be the protocol that underlies our ability to do directory services today. So when you use the Microsoft Active Directory service, you're using an LDAP compliant system to be able to use, send, and receive directory information. The ports that LDAP runs on are port 389, again, both TCP and UDP. The original RFC for LDAP is 1777. You can see it on the screen in front of you. Network Basic Input-Output System, what we call NetBIOS, which is a Microsoft-specific invention that they use in their network. Under TCP/IP, NetBIOS runs on ports 137 and 138. It runs on port 139 on UDP. You could see that listed here. There are some RFCs specifically for them. You could take a look at that as well, and you could see that. And again, just general knowledge of the protocol, general knowledge of the communication mechanism, general knowledge of the ports and the protocols involved with it would be things that you would want to make sure you're aware of. That's why we're throwing up these summary slides for you. Network Information Service, what's commonly referred to as NIS or NIS, and then a newer version, NIS Plus. This is used for managing user credentials across a grouping of machines. This is typically used in a non-Windows environment. NIS is going to be a Linux Unix solution for managing user credentials and credentialing, whereas you would use something like an LDAP solution, perhaps in a Windows environment. You may use NIS to provide the directory service in a non-Windows environment. So that's what NIS and or NIS Plus will represent. CIFS and or SMB, Common Internet File System and or Server Message Block. These are going to be file sharing protocols prevalent on Windows systems. You'll see they run on port 445 over TCP. There's no RFC there in the sense that there's not a standardized solution that we use to define them. They're proprietary. They're basically used internally in Microsoft's software, and as a result, there's no standardized owner manual for them. It should say see Microsoft documentation, because that's really where you would look. Network File System, NFS, is going to be a client server-based file sharing solution that's common on the Unix platform. So we'll see NFS being used to be able to create file shares and file servers in a Unix platform and then being able to be used. We do have NFS services that can be used and made available in Windows. You can run NFS services on Windows for Unix and provide Windows-based storage for file systems that can then be used, or file servers that can be set up and used and accessed from a Unix platform. So case you're wondering about that, we can run that in modern Windows systems as well. It's just a service that we add on, and then we're able to access that solution if we need to. When we think about email systems, yet another set of protocols we have to be aware of. We think about SMTP, the Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, and or ESMTP, the Extended Mail Protocol. And so we just have a capability table here kind of comparing the two. SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, ESMTP, Extended Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. So we define what the two protocols are at the top, and then we just kind of walk down and give you a sense of these. The generic idea here is that SMTP, which was the protocol that was first created to handle mail and send and receive mail, runs on port 25. That's going to be what we use and have used for some time to be able to send and receive mail. ESMTP extends that, creates additional functionality, allows us to be able to have newer features, newer capabilities for management, newer visibility in terms of diagnostics, things like that. There's an RFC associated with each, as you can see, and we are able to basically increase the size of the character string when we are sending, so we can send more than 512 characters for mail from and receipt to, so we can have longer address strings, for instance. That's one of the things that ESMTP provides, whereas SMTP was limited to a 512 character string, so we would have to have shorter email addresses. So there were things like that that were used to extend the SMTP functionality. So it provides a little table, a little visibility into that for us. If you're not working with mail systems on a regular basis, if it's not your forte, no big deal. Just have a general sense of the fact that both these protocols are used to send or receive mail, and that SMTP runs on port 25, and you should be fine. Nothing more than that for the most part.